she like me. I kinda dig it, so I did my thing for her. She joining with me, now we getting groovy. Hotter than jacuzzi, so shorty, won't you slow it down? I see the other fellas like, hey, they try to do it like me. It ain't the same. Front to back, shorty, side to side. Everything that with a soldier now. Cause it's so fly, boy. You should come to my crib. Yeah. I can go flip on you. You, I'm not tripping, but you should be mine. Waking up 3 o'clock in the morning for you. I never sweat you, baby. But if you let me, baby, know that I'ma put it down. Cause it's so clear. You should come to my crib. Oh, no, I'll be confident, baby. You, I'm not tripping, but
Hey, 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 it's your girl Nay coming to you with another episode of As Told by Nay, the podcast. Tell a friend to tell a friend, and let's talk about it. Hey, y'all, it's your girl Nay. Happy Thursday to you guys. Back again for another episode of As Told by Nay. Today, I'm having a very special conversation. I have two different guests coming in. And first up, we have Mr. Lewis Milton Jr. Anybody that knows me knows this is my daddy, a.k.a. Papa Bear. He's here to have this conversation with me. Something I feel like he can give great insight on. And then the second half of it, I'll have one of my ex-coworkers, to come and we'll speak to the more clinical side of it. So the last couple of conversations we had were a little more relaxed and chill, fun. Today we're going to get a bit more serious, a little bit like I like to do. So before I get started with that, if you could give the people just a little bit about yourself, something that you may think they want to know moving forward. We'll definitely get into a lot about you within this conversation, but just to start off, if there's anything that you think that they need to know.
First of all, like my daughter said, I'm Lewis Milton Jr., and I'm a grateful recovering addict. I celebrated 5 years on yesterday, May 26th. Thank God for his grace and mercy in my life, bringing me from death unto life. Thank him for reuniting me with my daughter and with my sons. And it's true, we do recover.
Right. So if you guys saw the little thing down there, and if I had to give today's conversation a topic, I will call it, what is addiction? Before we get into that, though, as always, I like to do my excuse me, come again questions, which I normally ask my guests 4 questions, random questions. But this time I will split it since I have 2 guests. I'm going to ask you 2 questions and then I'll ask my second guest 2 questions.
All right.
So your 2 questions, I'm going to keep it light because this is Dad. Question number 1, if you could go back in time and prevent one death, who would it be?
Oh, wow. If I could go back in time, I would say my mom, because I was in my addiction when she passed. And my addiction had a real grip on my life at that time. So she saw the struggles and she saw the downward spiral side of it, the isolation and not wanting to be around, not being trusted. Mm-hmm. So I was in my mom.
Okay. And question number 2, what is your biggest accomplishment outside of creating me, of course?
Wow. Let's see. To be able to wake up each day and don't have that urge, that desire, that the compulsiveness that comes with addiction. And it's crazy in a way because I know by me going through a 12-step program and also by me being a born-again believer in Jesus Christ, which is my higher power, by the way. I thank God for NA. I thank God for AA too, because I had alcohol was a drug. And but it's just that thing of waking up each day and know that all I have is today, and to try and make it positive the best I can.
Good deal. Good deal. Thank you. Great answers. So I'm going to read this letter. It's kind of a letter, kind of not. It was given to me by someone, and it kind of sparked my interest, not only because of my personal experience with the topic, but just because of my professional experience as well. Everybody knows that I am a therapist, but deeper than that, I'm a substance abuse therapist. So reading it was just like, wow, do people really think like this? It was very opinionated, it's very judgmental, but we're going to let you hear it, and then we're going to talk a little bit about it. So, drug addiction is a choice. It is not a disease. Before you stuck that needle in your arm or popped those pills in your mouth, you did not have an addiction. You created a habit that became habitual, and now you're dependent on the drugs. Addiction is a choice. Allowing addicts to believe it's a disease only enables them and gives them an excuse to feel sorry for themselves and continue doing what they're doing. You don't have a disease, you have a weak mind. You have no self-control, all you have is your drugs. I don't feel the least bit sorry for any of you. Tough love is what's going to make America great again. So in reading that, it kind of hurt my feelings a little bit, but I had to backtrack and think about where I've come from in regards to my personal understanding of what addiction is.
Right.
So before I invite you to kind of talk about your story, I do want to touch a little bit on like my personal understanding back in the day or prior to growing up and actually like doing research and finding out about addiction for real. So outside looking in, maybe back in high school, I would have somewhat agreed with this person because what I got from this letter was, or mention, was hurt. This is someone who probably has a family member or a close friend, loved one that is suffering from addiction. And they're the outside looking in, not understanding they've probably been hurt, they've probably been manipulated, they've probably been lied to, whatever the case may be. As my father has already stated, he was in addiction at one point. As a child of an addict, I experienced that same hurt, that same confusion, that same misunderstanding of what exactly was happening. And personally, I don't think I really had an understanding of whether it was a disease or not at that time. It just was more so like, it's something that you do. You're doing them drugs because you want to do them and nothing else matters. That's kind of where my mind was at. And for a long time, I had such a intense hurt behind that and not understanding that I kind of withdrew from you. And that's just where that sat for a while. So I want to like leave it there before I move on to talk about my understanding of it now. And I want to give you the opportunity to kind of speak about your experience the then versus now.
Okay. The letter, truly, the reason they call it a disease because it's curable. By doing steps and by doing certain things and getting counseling, counseling and by going to meetings, you begin to get the help you need, and then applying what you hear, doing the work, you begin to see the change. And my life was like that. The reason I turned to drugs was I was escaping things that happened to me in my past as a child, and the hurt that came behind it. Growing up in a house where my father was an alcoholic, it had a dampening on my life because I used to have to be at 11, 10, 11, 12, and 13 going to get him because he done fell in a ditch, he done got stuck somewhere and can't come home. And those things hurted me along with the things that happened to me as a child. I won't get into detail, but the thing was this, it caused me when I did drugs not to feel that pain. Not knowing that having an addictive personality caused me to go even deeper into my addiction where I began to isolate from my children, from my family. Now, the spin on is once I got the help I needed, once I sought the help by going to meetings and sitting in there and hearing the message of recovery. And there is a message, and the message is that any addict or any alcoholic having a desire to use can be free, but you got to do some work. And so I got a sponsor, and I went through the 12-step program steps, and I applied these steps as spiritual principles: honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. And with these three, they tell you you're well on your way. Well on my way to what? I'm well on my way to freedom, where I don't want to use it anymore. And today that's my story. I don't have a desire. I don't have an urge. And I reached the point that it talks about in the NA book with the pyramid, the 3 points that point, the 4 corners that point towards freedom. I have a life now. I'm a productive member of society. I know how to save money now. Whereas before I didn't. It was all about the next high.
What is so having been in a place where you feel like enough was enough, this is my issue, I need to deal with it, I need to get the help, I need to do the work, and then knowing where you are now and then hearing the words in this letter, like, what are your personal feelings about the letter in particular?
I didn't choose to get high. It wasn't a choice. I didn't want to do cocaine. I didn't want to steal from my family. I didn't want to lie to my children. I didn't want to, be homeless, sleeping on the streets, sleeping in dumpsters. I didn't want to live that life. But because I hadn't dealt with the root of my problem, and the root of my problems stem back to what happened to me at 6 years old. I was molested as a child. And I hadn't told anybody about that. And hold that in. Then going to prison, at 17. My life, I saw a lot of things, Then coming back out of prison and being in society, I didn't know how to react because of what had happened to me. So, no, it wasn't a choice. I didn't choose to get high. I know some people may say it like, but it's the thing. I was escaping the pain because I didn't tell anybody. I was afraid to let people know what happened because of how they would view me, And I know who God made me to be, And that's not what He made me to be. That's something that happened. And after coming into treatment and talking with the counselors and going to meetings to help me understand the things that happened to me were not my fault. I trusted a man, which was a man of God. And he was my godfather. I trusted this man, and he had a problem. He wasn't honest about who he was, his struggles. And I was a victim of his struggles. But once I got the help, and I started talking about it, it helped me. Now I know who I am. You know, I know my identity. My identity is what God says about me. That I'm the head and not the tail. I'm above and not beneath. His word tells me that I was created in his image. And when God made man, he said it was good. So now I know that I can be successful, that I can love, and I can give, you know, because I know who I am today. I know my identity. I was trying to find myself. So I figured when I had my first drink, it made me feel relaxed. And before I was a real quiet person, withdrawn like, but I began to talk and feel at ease. So I got caught up on the feeling. Mm-hmm. Then the drinking was enough, so I ventured off into other stuff, marijuana and cocaine. And the cocaine was the height of everything because it made me feel like I never felt before. I felt like I was invisible and I could do anything. Not knowing that as life progresses, it gets worse, and that's what happened to me.
And that's another reason why they do identify addiction as a disease, is because it progresses without treatment. It progresses without work. It progresses without something intervening, whether that is God, whether that is AA, whether that is going into inpatient detox. Something has to happen to offset the addiction, and then you can start the growing process from there. So I kind of want to do a, before I let you go, then versus now type of thing when it comes to your journey and your process. So for me as your daughter, then I was hurt, I was embarrassed, I was sad, and I was confused. From that, you actually inspired this journey for me. Once I got to school, I knew I wanted to be a therapist, wasn't sure which field, but because I was just so confused about what was going on with you, I wanted to learn. So then I went into substance abuse, and I fell in love with it. It fueled me forward, and just like watching your progress and your process, the back and forth, the, falling but getting up again and never giving up. So, and today I am proud. I am overwhelmed with happiness, and I'm grateful that I have this great relationship with my father now. I've always been a daddy girl. Anybody that knows that, knows me, knows that. And I'm very appreciative for the fact that you stayed present as much as you could, even in your struggles. And I'm able to see the contrast. You were there then, but now the relationship is just, I can call my dad for anything, and I don't feel like he's not going to answer. I'm not going to be able to find him. I'm not going to get a return call. Like if I want to go see my daddy, I know where to find him. I want to talk to my dad, I know how to get in touch with him. I invite him to anything that I have going on. I know he's going to be there to support me. And that is just an amazing feeling to have now. And I'm just so proud of you. Congratulations again on your 5 years. One of my biggest prayers and wishes. And I'm just happy to be in this moment with you and being able to have this conversation with you. So for you, then and now.
Oh, wow. Then I was a monster. I was selfish. I was self-centered. I was all about myself. And I didn't care what I had got to the point. I didn't care where or what I had to do what I needed to do. Like I said, I've done some things that were right evil. And I hurt a lot of folks. But now, man, my life. I mean, if you struggling with anything, it is help. My life today is 100. What I mean by that is 100% because I know, like I said before, I know who I am. And once you find out who you are, you're able to accept. Because I always had pain, I always had emotions, but I didn't know how to express them. I didn't know how to do it, but today I do, and I'm so grateful that God placed my daughter back in my life. These last few years, seeing her even in college, when she was in Tallahassee, see her to transform into what she is today. It's, I'm glad I'm here because before I wasn't present. I say I'm gonna come, didn't show up because I was trying to chase the next one. It's a saying in the Narcotics Anonymous book, and We Do Recover. It says when at the end of the road, we are hit with this dilemma to go on the best we can to the bitter end, jails, institutions of death, or death, or find a new way to live. Very few have found this path. But today is proven in the lives of many addicts across this world, this nation. We do recover. And now I'm a grateful recovery addict, and my walk with God is stronger than before, And now I'm a productive member of society. Now I go to work. Now I keep a job. I don't jump from job to job, Now I pay my child support. Before I was ducking. Now I'm on a job as long as I ever been on a job. I never been on a job more than 6 months before changing up. I'm going on 2 years on this job. Cigarettes, I wanted to quit so many times. Then it didn't matter. I'm smoking so much and not knowing that they could have given me cancer. But now I have almost 3 years without a cigarette, And these are things I'm doing now because of the rooms of Narcotics Anonymous, and the rooms of AA, and because of my relationship with Jesus Christ as my Savior. So my thing is, you could be a productive member of society, and you don't. You don't have to get high, but you got to deal with whatever's going on in your life. You got to deal with the root to be in control and to be what you need.
Mm-hmm. That is what they preach over there. Hope y'all got that good word real quick.
Yes.
So yeah, that was great. Thank you for being in that moment with me. Thank you for sharing your story. I'm gonna end this part of this because woo, y'all know I'm a crybaby. But yes, that was perfect. That was perfect. So anything last words? Kind of all just then, but any last things you want to say before I let you go?
I'm just grateful, man. I'm grateful for. I have a heart of gratitude. I love you.
I love you too, Daddy.
Yeah, I love you.
It's my voice. It's my voice. All right. Yeah. So then we are done with you for the evening. Right. And I'm going to get my second guest on to talk a little more clinical. We have the personal experience. And yeah, again, thanks, Daddy. I'll call you later.
I love you.
So we are going to keep it moving. Next on the docket, next up we have Miss Shantae Quarles here to have a little more in-depth conversation with me on the more clinical side of things when it comes to addiction. But before we get started, I have my little two, excuse me, come again. Add a little humor right now because I'm all in my feels and I need to get out of that place. So question number one. If one of your friends are not so fresh, how are you telling them? That's a serious question. I actually want to know this answer.
Well, it depends if they're a close friend or an associate type of friend. But everybody knows that I'm pretty much direct and transparent. So although I might try to say things really nicely, like, hey, let me talk to you for a second. I've noticed, that you maybe not be that fresh. And I just wanted to tell you because I am your friend,
Okay.
So nobody else won't have to tell you. And, you might want to kind of look into those things.
Okay. I was having this debate with someone, and we were kind of coming to the conclusion that there is no nice way to tell someone that they're not fresh. But kind of what you said was the common consensus was that it depends on how close you are to the person, and if they're going to understand that you're coming from a place of I'm trying to help you versus being funny or whatever. So that's interesting. And question number two, what is your favorite physical and then non-physical attribute about yourself?
Physical, like what I do?
No,
physically?
Like
my body?
Yep.
Well, everything is a favorite. I don't really have a least favorite, but I mean, I can't say my weight was something that I didn't like.
I didn't ask you for the negative. What is your favorite?
Everything. I love everything about me. Everything.
Okay. Not doing this with you today. All right. Okay, girl. So moving right along, you were in here in the studio, so you did get a chance to hear what was said in this little letter or whatever. And I want to right off the bat ask you, how do you feel after hearing that from a clinical perspective?
I'm in between, just because like you went before we became into this field, growing up with people that have addictions in the family and those type of things, we're just like, well, what is the problem? You can just stop doing this. Why are you doing this? You're choosing to do these things. But now, as a clinician, I understand why. I understand that it goes so much more deeper than just a person putting a needle in their arm or just a person popping some pills or on the corner. Everyone has a backstory. So they have made a choice. The choice was made, but it was circumstances leading up to that choice. Right. And I think that's what people forget. People forget the fact that there was things leading up to that. Like Mr. Milton said, he was trying to numb. He was trying to suppress. He was trying to forget all of those things. And if you're not addressing those things, you're going to go to a negative standpoint to get the feelings that you're looking for.
One thing that stuck out to me when I was reading that was I don't want to call it a myth, but a misunderstanding of when she said, oh, you chose to pop the pill, you chose to put the needle, you chose to drink this bottle, that there is a difference, and I try and teach this to my clients a lot. There's a difference between misuse, and this is my personal opinion, misuse of a substance and then abuse and addiction when it comes to. There are people who may drink in excess when they're at a party and make a bad decision. I work with DUI clients. So you had too much to drink or, got messed up and you drove a car. This may not be something that is an addiction more so than you misused you're not supposed to drink and drive, but you made the choice to do that. Now you're in trouble. Or you smoke marijuana. And maybe I know a lot of people in previous jobs smoke marijuana, get caught up in a situation with their kids, and now you're in the system and, you're having to work a case to get your kids back, and you're looking at it like a label of addiction when it was you made a bad choice. And I get that. So when we talk about choosing to drink or use a drug recreationally versus this is an actual addiction, there's a big difference. It no longer is a choice when it's addiction. That's how I have interpreted that. How do you feel like there's a difference between misuse and addiction, or is it all one and the same?
No, it's definitely different, because even when Miss Mentor talked about AA, NA, they already teach you that addiction is when you're doing something compulsively, habitually, and your life has become unmanageable. Mm-hmm. That means you cannot manage your day-to-day functions. You can't keep a job. You can't do any of these things, and your life is literally in shambles. But for a person that drinks occasionally over here, and like you said, make a foolish mistake, or a person that has been smoking weed for 20 some years, and this one time they smoked and got caught up in some crap, and now their kids got taken. These are not unmanageable situations. Their life is not in an unmanageable state. They just made a mistake in their decision making, and now that becomes that drug user. I drink recreationally or I smoke recreationally, but it's the same thing with anything, because everyone, to my belief, has an addictive personality somewhere. It may not be drugs, it may not be alcohol, but people are addicted to sex, they're addicted to shopping, they're addicted to food, they're addicted to so many things. And people like to deflect onto other people. Your crap is worse than my crap, so I don't have to deal with my crap because I don't do all of those things that you're doing. But for the same parent or father that's out here sleeping with everybody, not taking care of their kids and laying up here, laying up there, can we say that his life is unmanageable? Absolutely, we can say his life is unmanageable. Can we say that he's a habitual offender? Yep, because he got 6, 7, 8 baby mamas, 20 kids laying around, and he's not taking care of any of his kids. So that shows us that he's addicted to, one, sex, and he has lack of responsibility. So we can use the same concept from drugs and alcohol with your everyday things that people do, that people just look at it as that's just what it is and it's no big deal.
So I kind of want to harp on that a little bit. Something that I tend to talk to my clients about, and it kind of goes hand in hand with this whole myth versus fact thing. A lot of people will say, okay, well, in AA or when you're in recovery, you tend to trade one drug for another, where people kind of then let go of their drugs or drinking, and then they get addicted to going to these meetings, or they get addicted to in the gym, like happy or healthy addictions, which I think that there is a such thing as happy and healthy addictions. And I would much rather someone be addicted to working out than, well, not to the point where it's messing up your life, but to replace, hanging out, doing drugs, drinking in excess, deteriorating your health, versus then getting in the gym, running, doing things that way you're masking, well, not even masking, but that can be a coping mechanism versus the using the drugs. Because like my dad said, a lot of folks that do drugs or drink in excess is because that's how they cope. They're using it to mask or deal with something. So then finding a healthy way to do that, cool. So set all of that to roundabout to this. When we're talking about lives being unmanageable, what about those folks who deem themselves functioning addicts? So now I can't hold a job. I take care of my kids. I got a little money. I haven't been in any serious trouble, but every night after I get work, I'm sitting in my garage drinking until I pass out on the floor, or I'm in my bedroom. My kids don't know, but I'm high and, I'm doing this and doing that. Is there a such thing as a functioning addict in your professional opinion?
I know a lot of people that will be considered to be functional addicts. I've have family members that's functional addicts. I have friends that's functional addicts, but an addict is still an addict. At the end of the day, you might not do it to the extent that you have lost your job, but if you at work and all you can think about is getting home to that bottle, when you walk in the door, you don't really pay attention to your children, or you just shoo them away just so that you can get that alone time so that you can go shoot up, or so that you can do that. Your life is still unmanageable because you can't make the point of the unmanageable is that you can't manage what's going on in your day-to-day life because you have this over urge to drink, this over urge to shoot up, this over urge to pop a pill, do all of these things. And it's the same thing of going back to sex, to eating, to all of these things. Your life is still unmanageable either way. Sorry. What, babe?
That's not funny, but I'm just thinking about when you're like, when you waiting when you're at work, when you can't get home. That's how I feel about food. Can't wait to get home so I can eat, or that's crazy. But that's funny. I tell people all the time, I definitely feel like my addiction is sweets and certain foods, not all food, but certain foods and sweets. Like, it really is overpowering, even to the point where it's like, I'm not gonna have any sweets, and then 2 days later, I want some sweets again.
But that's the same thing with workaholics. People
Facts.
work so much that people look at it as a good thing. Oh my gosh, she's grinding, she's doing this, she's doing that, but she's working herself to the ground. So good habits can lead to bad habits if it's not in excess. It's across the board, because even with my own self with working out, I don't really like working out. But I work out because I know it's a good coping skill. It's good to release your frustrations, to make yourself look good, and be a healthier life. So that can turn into an unhealthy habit, because all I can do is just think about working out. I'm really not doing nothing else. I just want to work out. I want to pump the muscles. So now I'm taking steroids because I want to go over here and do this. I want to go do that. So it's that extra urge. So do I think people leave one addiction for the next one? Oh, yeah. Yes, because it's kind of how we have been conditioned to fight addiction. The same way, like we both did it. Methadone clinics. To get off one drug, we're going to give you this other drug. Sometimes people
can also be addictive.
Exactly. Some people need a kick in the butt, or some people need something to jump start their recovery. Right. And the same thing with weight loss. People use Herbalife, all these other products to jumpstart the recovery. But the problem becomes when you get so complacent that you're going to keep taking this medicine because you don't want to do the work. Right. And that's the problem that we have. When you leave one addiction for the next addiction, you just don't want to do the work. So you'd rather be dependent upon this because it's not as bad as the other thing you was doing, and you don't want to put in the work.
So, sticking along the lines of myth versus fact. Oh man, it just slipped my mind what I was going to say. You had said something that. Damn. Okay, just kidding. That was a good one. It was a good one when you think about it.
But now, Daddy Milton had definitely some good points, and I like the fact that he did agree that he sought what he sought because of not dealing with the issue, and that's the core of your addiction. You can go to NA, you can go to AA, you can do all of these things, but that's a surface recovery. You're just doing the surface work. If you're not getting to the core of what led you to make the decision to put the needle in your arm, what led you to make the decision to pop the pill, what led you to whatever those feelings was that you did not want to feel, then you only live in a surface recovery, because when those feelings start to arise again, you're going to still think about them urges, because that's why the urges come, because you never really dealt with the root of your issues, the root of the problem.
Boom, and I remember. So a lot of times I hear that alcohol is not a drug. It's legal. It's something that you can buy at the store, you have it in your house. As long as the bottle's closed when you're in the car, so you're not going to jail. Your professional opinion, is that myth or fact? Alcohol is not a drug.
I'm going to say that is definitely a myth. Because although it's legal, the same way cigarettes are legal, And cigarettes are very addictive. They say it on the package,
Right.
you know, and people, just like regular drugs, they take nicotine patches, they take nicotine gums just to get off of smoking a cigarette. So if you're doing something that's in excessive, then that becomes your drug. It doesn't necessarily mean it has to be a narcotic or anything like that. If you're doing something to that excessive point where you have no control over it, that is your drug. So shopping is your drug of choice. You know, sleeping around is your drug of choice. You know, eating is your drug of choice. Ordering is your drug of choice. These are all things that become your drug of choice.
I think alcohol actually is a little more. It's a very damaging drug at that, for people to say that it's not a drug. When you drink in excess, like your liver is now in jeopardy. You can have it shuts your body down.
You have strokes, you have heart attacks, you can literally die. You can literally die from the withdrawal of alcohol.
Right.
So it's might be deemed worse than anything else because it has so many different effects and longing effects. Even a person that has used drugs can get off of drugs and live a perfectly healthy life with no issues, no concerns, no nothing. But a person that has years and years and years of alcohol abuse, when they get off of it, they're going to have serious issues, whether it's kidney, whether it's liver, whether it's breathing, everything else. They're going to have issues with it because it damages your body so much. But people don't want to look at it that way because it's legal. And you know the myth of it, if it's legal, it must be good for us. No, it's not good for us. It's not.
Anything done in excess is not not good. Too much of anything. That's what I was trying to say.
It's not
too much of anything is not good for you. Perfecto. Anything you want, any myths that you have heard or myth versus facts that you kind of want to discuss before we move on from that?
I think the biggest one was what the letter was about, the choices. And it's disturbing that people in our society at this point, with such a big drug epidemic that we are in, still feel like this is a choice, that it's not a disease, or you have choices to not do these things, when behind every addict is a story, right? And is whether, like your dad said, molested, raped, pimped out, stolen, everything that can possibly happen to a person, abused as a child. And if you're not getting the proper help, which is where we come in as clinicians, we come in to swoop in and help you realize some things and get you to a better point. But if you're never doing that, and especially in a culture where mental health is still so not talked about, in a sense of making sure that everyone is in a good, stable foundation, including children. So if something happened with your child, don't never think that they're too young to get therapy behind it, because they're not. I've had clients that was 1, 2, 3 years old because something has happened to them and they're displaying certain behaviors. So if you continue to let that go unhelped, then you're conditioning them to say that no one cares about them. No one cares about what happened to them. They don't have any voice, and that to them, they're going to feel like it was their fault because no one helped them. And then they're going to grow up to be that way as adults. And then they're going to, 9 times out of 10, going to have some type of addiction, whether it's drugs, alcohol, promiscuity, it doesn't matter. It's something that's going to happen because nothing was intervened. Right. You need some type of intervention.
I know a lot of people tend to think that alcoholism and drug use drug abuse, addiction only comes from trauma. And I think that that's a big myth as well, because it could very well stem from party life. I drink, I hang out. This is what I do to have fun, you know, and I'm living this life, or I'm popping these pills, I'm doing these drugs recreationally in the beginning, where, okay, yes, that's a choice. But once it then starts to affect your brain chemistry, you start to physically need it, or else you're in pain, you can't function, you can't think, you're shaking, you can't sleep. Now we've moved past it being a choice, and you're using it to survive at that point. And it's no longer about masking the pain. It's no longer about dealing with trauma. And it may not have even started that way. It actually was, I did it to have fun, but now I'm addicted. Or something we see a lot of these days with these pain meds is I got into a really bad accident. I had to have surgery. Something else went on. They gave me these meds, and now I can't function without them. And now that sometimes that's how addiction starts too. So for someone to be like, oh, it's a choice. There's so many other ways that addictive patterns form that, like you said, at this point, we have to move past that thought process that it's a choice.
And I agree, even with the party life, because like your dad made a good point. I've known people that when they're not drinking or they're not smoking, they are a completely different person, and they don't like that person because they don't get talked to a lot. They didn't have a lot of friends. So by the time they got to college, it was like, well, I want to be somebody different. Like he said, he was trying to find himself. Mm-hmm. So if and then people enable people, they feel like they don't, but you do. So now if you tell me, oh girl, when you was drinking, you was a whole nother person. I like that person. Mm-hmm. Well, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to keep drinking because you like that person. I got more friends now. I got more people that like me, that hang out. I feel more confident in myself and all of these things. So because I'm still trying to be that person, I'm going to keep drinking. I'm going to keep smoking. I'm going to keep doing these type of things because people like me now. Mm-hmm. So even in that sense, if we peel it back a little bit more, well, you like this person, but what was wrong with the other person? Because you already felt some type of way about who you were, because you at this point that you're experimenting. Those are the experimenters. You're experimenting with different drugs to find out if you like this, if you like that, and who you are behind them. Right?
So someone on Facebook commented and said, people have to realize the effects of drugs and alcohol on the body. Your body is literally in need of that chemical substance, which is why you go through withdrawal, which makes it so hard to get off of the drug. So true. I think for me, that's what sealed it. When I was in school and learning about substance abuse, for me to make the decision of, okay, no, this is a disease, is the actual physical effect that it has on your body. Like, it's not just I want it, that's why I'm an addict, because I want it. No, like, your body is dependent on it.
And it's true. Even with my job now, I've had clients that is solely dependent on alcohol. And when they call for help, they tell me, if I stop drinking, I'm going to die. And that's not dramatizing. That's not overthinking it. It's not. Because if he stops drinking right now at this point where he's at, he will die because his body will start to shut down. He will go through horrible withdrawal symptoms. And that's why people always look for, well, if I'm going to treatment, are they going to give me medication to help ease the pain? Are they going to do these? Are they going to do that? Because their body in so much pain. And the pain from withdrawal, especially alcohol, you can go into shock and think your body can shut down. You can have a heart attack. You can have a stroke. You can have so many things happen to you just because you decided not to drink. And a lot of people, especially up in age, because we see a lot of alcoholism with people up in age, they feel at this point, I'm 70, 80 years old. You know what? To hell with it. I'm not going to stop drinking because I could die at this point. I only got that much longer to live. So, it is what it is. And after a while, people accept it for it being it is what it is.
So real quick, and this will be the last area of expertise we touch on before we get out of here is, at the end of all of that, as my dad said, the next point, recovery, treatment. What does that look like? What options are there? So with someone who is struggling with substance abuse issues or alcoholism, whatever your issue, your drug of choice is, and you realize that there may be a problem. I might have a problem. I might need to get this checked. I might need to get this under control. Do you think you just wake up one morning and say, all right, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. Benito.
No, not at all. Because you know how we talk, and I'm like, it's the same thing. They didn't wake up one morning saying they want to be a drug addict, So no, they didn't wake up one morning saying that they want to stop either. Life circumstances occurred. They hit their rock bottom, and you will hear most people that's addicted to things, they hit their rock bottom. Now they might not be all the way down in the ground, but families turn their back on them. They keep losing their jobs. They homeless. They doing all these things. So that's their rock bottom. Everybody's rock bottom is something different. So it takes And it's sad to say that it takes something to happen to change their thoughts or their desires to do something different. You can keep telling them about treatment, but it's not until they decide that they want treatment that is going to be beneficial. And as far as family go, I think it's really important for family to do research to understand where their loved ones are coming from when it comes down to substance abuse. Because as partners and as companions, caregivers, we could be very detrimental to their recovery.
Right.
If we're not supporting them, if they don't feel supported, and I'm not saying you got to shove out hundreds and hundreds of dollars, but just giving them a cooked meal or listening to them or giving them that encouragement. You did 30 days, congratulations. You know, those type of things, because those things go a long way. And before they can even get to the root of their problem as clinicians, I have to help you get clean first.
Right.
I got to get you to a substance abuse treatment program. I got to get you detox. I got to get all of those things before we can even get to the meat of it, because I need you to be in a conscious state of mind to receive what we're doing. Because if they're not clean, you can't just give a person therapy because they're not going to get it. And as far as the steps go, I think everybody should live by the 12 steps, because like Natty Mitchell said, it's a way of life. You know, being respectful, being apologetic, righting your wrongs, you know, accepting responsibility, believing in something bigger than yourself. Those are good qualities that everyone should possess. And especially caregivers, especially loved ones of people that are struggling with this disease and addiction, so you can be able to support them better.
All of that. Yes, no, but seriously, I've worked the steps, and no, I don't have a personal experience with substance abuse, but I feel like just in bettering myself and becoming the best version of myself, I got a lot out of doing the steps. A lot of the work that I did on myself came from that self-inventory, came from righting the wrongs, came from making amends, came from releasing power and over to something greater than myself and believing that, you know, this higher power was going to help me through. And so, like Tay said, everybody can benefit from these 12 steps. You can apply it to your life, whether you have substance abuse issues or not. And especially if you have a loved one that is struggling with substance abuse problems and you want to be there for them or be more understanding. I encourage all of anyone who's dealing with that to attend Al-Anon meetings. It's amazing. I did it. It was a growing process for me. Very enlightening, and definitely helped along with my journey of, you know, rebuilding that damaged place with my father. So there are so many different treatment options out there, whether it's detox, if you are currently, and right now I just kind of want to speak to anybody that may be struggling or in a place of trying to get to the other side of that and start your recovery. If you are currently using and struggling, detox is definitely an option. Kickstart, go get it out of your system. And then from there, you want to make sure that you go into some type of, whether it's residential where you stay for a while, or outpatient where you're just going, you're getting therapy and counseling. You have different resources that are available to you to get back on your feet. Again, your rock bottom may not be literally rock bottom, homeless, this and that, but your rock bottom could simply be like a lot of folks that I come in contact with on a daily basis because of what I do. You got in trouble, you got caught driving, and now you're forced into a program. I feel like forced recovery can also be very beneficial. It may not be something that you were planning on doing at the time, but because you want to avoid going to jail, it causes you to realize maybe I did need to take a step back, reevaluate some things in my life. Maybe I did have a problem. And even though it's forced on you, it kind of helps you to see that you do need to make the decision to go ahead and get help and you know, make some changes in your life. So,
and remember, recovery does not happen overnight. You have to trust the process. Trusting the process is going to be important for the person that's in recovery and for the family members, because they're going to stumble, but the goal is for them not to fall and not to stay there. So a stumble is okay because things are not easy. They didn't get this way overnight, and they're not going to get clean overnight either. But can you just imagine a person that's at their lowest, that's surrounded by nothing but love and encouragement, and what they can do with that? because it's just so much surrounded by them, and it gives them that hope, that faith that, you know what, I can make this right. I can rebuild relationships with my daughter. I can rebuild relationships with my wife. I can rebuild these things if I just stay on this path. But if you're telling them, oh, you ain't gonna do nothing but be a junkie all your life and do all these things, that's quenching their hope. That's quenching their faith in the process. And you have to take stake in the process, because if you don't take stake in the process, then it's not going to be beneficial. And encourage them to go to therapy. Trust your therapist. Take heed to what the therapist is talking to you about, because we're not coming to you in a judgmental way. We're not even coming to you to fix you. We're coming to you to help you fix you. We're not giving you the answers. We're helping you guide. So we are your facilitators. We're the facilitators of helping you get your life back in order. So trust that we do have your interest, your best interest in mind, and trust that we're not going to lead you astray. Because at the end of the day, we do take that oath that if we can't help, we don't do no harm.
As I tell my clients all the time, I'm not here to force you to believe anything about yourself. Mm-hmm. I'm not here to force you to do anything to better yourself. I'm here to help along the process. I'm here to help you with the journey. If you want to change, if you want to learn, if you want to become a different person and really put in the work, I'm going to meet you where you are. I'm very client-based. I'm very client-centered when it comes to my approach to clinical work. And it is because, as someone in the comments says, the first person to realize that you need to make that change is you. You have to embrace that for yourself, or you're not going to put in the work. When I say forced recovery, I mean as far as the beginning of it, sure, you're forced into a situation, but at some point you have to embrace what is and then start taking those steps to make it better yourself. So, all right, okay. So we are gonna wrap this all together and get ready to get out of here because it is 8:57. Y'all know your girl only kicks it for about an hour. That's all I got. Just kind of want to highlight a little bit, like a sum up for you guys that were here from the beginning. You already know, and those of you that don't, my father came through to speak to his experience from a personal aspect, and I spoke from both as a daughter and as a clinician daughter, and why, I began this journey. It was very, he gave some good advice to anybody out there struggling, from someone who's been there, done that, walked in those shoes. So that was great. Make sure you guys, if you missed it, when I'm done, it will post to my YouTube channel as well as my Facebook page. Rewind, hear that dialogue. It was amazing. And then we had Miss Corals come through this week. More dialogue with me from a clinical aspect. We talked a little bit about some myths and some facts. We talked about the difference between using and abusing and actually addiction. We talked a little bit about it being a disease and why that is. And then finally, we ended up with some dialogue about treatment and recovery. I think we kind of hit everything.
I concur. I think
real short and sweet. Anything you want to, go ahead, brag on yourself just a little bit. Take this opportunity to let my listeners know about your services that you offer.
Okay, well, as Nay said, I'm a clinician as well. She focuses just on substance abuse, but I'm all encompassed. I do substance abuse as well as family counseling, couples counseling, as individual counseling. I hit on mental health disorders specifically, and I also do substance abuse. Right now, I'm doing me, and I'm getting the word out about how mental health is great and we should all take part of it. So you'll see me around.
You sure will, because I'm definitely going to have to have you back to talk more about, some mental health stuff, because it's very, very important. You guys know I'm very, very passionate about my mental health stuff and my substance abuse and my children. I love the kids. So thank you, Miss Shantae.
If you're looking for a therapist, hit me up. Talk to Tay now. I'm on Facebook too. So just follow me and see the things that I got going on, and that would be great.
Talk to Tay now.
Yeah.
Okay. Talk to Tay now. Y'all better talk to her.
Exactly.
So yes, again, thank you, Ms. Shantae, for coming through to speak to this
Thanks for
topic
having
with me. I really,
me.
really enjoyed the dialogue. And again, I will have you back, talk a little more stuff another time. Maybe next time won't be so serious. And yeah, thank you guys as always for tuning in right here on Facebook Live and YouTube. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Turn on your notifications so that you get alerts of what's going on. Reach out to me, comment, leave your comments below so that I know if you guys are enjoying. And hit me up if you want a copy of my book. Dreamer is available. I'm going to say it every week because I want you guys to read my book. And it's great. I've been getting a lot of good feedback about it. And so, go ahead, click that link, get that book. And that's my time. Thank you guys. I will see you right back here again next week, next Thursday, 8 p.m. for another conversation on As Told by Nay. Let's talk about it.
Oh, awesome, man. Your dad was great. I love him.